Monkey is on the loose in Pennsylvania after a crash involving a pickup truck towing about 100 of the animals to a lab. Several monkeys escaped after the collision between the pickup and a dump truck yesterday afternoon, but all have been found except one. These monkeys are used in scientific research and they can cost up to $10,000 each. State police are urging people not to look for or capture the monkey since it is a wild animal in unfamiliar territory.
Now to a bizarre story involving the crash of a trailer full of monkeys headed to a lab and a woman now experiencing health problems after coming in close contact with the primates. The woman says she has been put on preventative medicine for the next 2 weeks, but there are some questions tonight into what these monkeys were being used for and what they could have been infected with.
Look down in more and it pops it up some monkey.
Michelle Fallon never thought something like this would happen.
I thought, well, zoo monkeys. You know, I didn't know these were animal test monkeys.
After witnessing a crash on a Pennsylvania highway and stopping to help, she learned the truck was carrying 100 monkeys from East Africa, headed for a Missouri test lab.
I thought they were like okay, like they had their shots, they're good, they've been checked. I didn't know they could have diseases or whatever.
After checking to make sure the driver was okay, she went up to the trailer full of crates, thinking there were cats inside.
They had this like green cloth over, so I peel it back and I go to stick my finger in there to try to pet it, and it pops its head up and I'm like, oh, it's a monkey.
3 of the monkeys escaped in the crash and 1 was recovered. 2 others were put down. But the hours-long escape forced health officials to issue an alert, warning the community not to come into close contact with the primates because the species commonly spreads herpes virus B.
I'm like, well, I was there and I touched everything.
That alert leaving Michelle on edge and unsure of what to do. Her close contact later leading to pink eye and flu-like symptoms.
I walked through their poop, I touched their crates, I tried to pet them, so now I don't know what's going on.
As a precaution, Michelle has now received her first rabies vaccination and has been prescribed antiviral medication as doctors continue to monitor her symptoms.
The location of the CDC quarantine facility where these monkeys were headed and the type of research that they were going to be used for has not been released, but this type of monkey is often used in medical studies.
24 hours after a crash in Montour County, all monkeys have been accounted for. We have the details on the search and the end to the monkey saga. Information on the bizarre crash in Montour County that had state and federal agencies searching for escaped monkeys. Those monkeys have since been found, and officials tell us they were euthanized. Newswatch 6.
3 monkeys that have been lost along the interstate in Montour County are all accounted for, all of them now dead. A public health risk assessment was conducted by several organizations, including the CDC. They confirmed the escaped monkeys were humanely euthanized. The monkeys escaped after a truck carrying about 100 of them collided with a dump truck Friday afternoon along Route 54 just off Interstate 80 near Danville.
We're rural Pennsylvania. We hear about like cows getting out and, pigs and trucks like that, wrecking. But monkeys, not, it's not a common everyday thing.
According to a CDC spokesperson, the monkeys were en route to a CDC-approved quarantine facility after landing Friday morning in New York. They are originally from Mauritius, a country in Eastern Africa. The crash happened around 3:30 Friday afternoon. That's when the 3 monkeys got free in the Danville area. Police say the driver who was transporting the monkeys was charged in the crash. Originally, state police told us 4 monkeys were on the loose. And as of Saturday afternoon, some people were still worried.
Little monkeys, we got bears, we have coyotes, we have deer, all the time. A little 3-pound monkey doesn't scare me, but why are they so concerned about it is what concerns me.
Friday night, Newswatch 16 spoke with Michelle Fallon of Danville, who saw the entire accident. She jumped into action, helping both drivers and the loads they were carrying.
I walk up back on the hill and this guy tells me, he goes, oh, he's hauling cats. I'm like, oh. So I go over to look in the crate and there's this green cloth over it. So I peel it back, I stick my finger in there and go, kitty, kitty, and it pops it up and it's a monkey.
Fallon was contacted Saturday by the CDC and was told to monitor herself for any cold-like symptoms. She shared the letter from the CDC with Newswatch 16. It reads in part that the surviving monkeys will be quarantined and will be monitored for infectious diseases for at least 31 days before their release.
Michelle, this woman who we just heard from receiving these rabies shots, antivirals, is it concerning that she's experiencing flu-like symptoms, pink eye, after coming in contact with these monkeys?
So it's true that macaques, which I think these primates were, can carry herpes B infection, which is in the herpes virus family. It's actually really hard, however, to get herpes B infection from macaques. It usually takes an attack or something quite more massive contact than what's described here with lacerations or bites. So hopefully there was no exposure, and actually the symptoms of it aren't what was just described with pink eye. It really is. It absolutely can be very, very serious if humans contract it, but usually it's actually brain related, and there's paralysis, agitation, blurred vision, and an increase in sensitivity to stimuli. So I'm very hopeful that there was no exposure to herpes B. It is a serious, very serious herpes infection, and it does require acyclovir or valacyclovir. And then rabies usually takes post-exposure prophylaxis. If there's been exposure to wild animal, usually does take immunoglobulin injections and multiple days after the exposure.
Well, these macaque monkeys, if they do in fact carry these very dangerous diseases, are you surprised that the monkeys hadn't been quarantined at all before arriving here in the U.S.? They were in this truck headed to Missouri. What's standard practice in a situation like this?
So to be fair, again, they are 70% of macaques do carry herpes B, but it really does take a huge amount of exposure to get the infection. In fact, healthcare workers or laboratory workers who work with these animals really need laceration or bites. So I'm hopeful, again, that she didn't get it. But yes, I mean, of course, it's certainly macaques. It's something to know about, that macaques can carry this very rare infection that can be transmitted to humans. So probably signs or some way to indicate that on the truck.
You know, some may question, I certainly did today, given what we've seen in recent years in the news, how often these animals are being used for biomedical testing, especially after a number of facilities, Harvard being one, have closed the practice of doing this in recent years. How common is it still for these primates to be used in testing?
So, you know, it's true that primate-related research is still actually quite common. It is, macaques specifically are used in the setting of HIV research because they have a simian immunodeficiency virus that resembles HIV. It should be closely regulated. It should be limited because they are primates, but it is really, they're primate research facilities, and it's not uncommon, funded by the NIH.
And a lot of benefits from doing this type of research, I would assume, certainly in the medical community.
They're the closest to us as humans, so that's why they're needed, yes.
You know, it struck me, she's going through this rabies shot and antivirals. You know, that process, when people come in contact with bats or other wild animals, what is that like for the person who's going through it?
Well, it's true that the rabies what's called post-exposure prophylaxis is not easy. So on the day of exposure, you get both the rabies vaccine and also what's called immunoglobulin. This is actually giving people antibodies that were generated to protect you from rabies if for some reason you did get the virus in your system, and you get that at days 1, the day of exposure, then 3, 7, and 14. So it is long needles, it is shots. And that's required for post-exposure prophylaxis. And on the other hand, it's been life-saving. There's actually, rabies is very, very lethal to humans, and this is extremely life-saving. Luckily, again, even the exposure she describes hopefully didn't even lead to rabies, but this is the prudent thing to do.
Yeah, unnerving nonetheless. And I do want to
Yes.
mention the USDA investigating. PETA has filed a complaint urging the U.S. to stop importing monkeys for experiments. Hoping the best for this woman. She has experienced, as I said, flu-like and pink eye symptoms. Dr. Gandhi?
4 of those monkeys got loose this afternoon after a truck hauling about 100 of them crashed here on Route 54 near the Danville exit of Interstate 80. Now, State Police and the Game Commission are still on scene, but this story prompted a local animal-loving family to help. When word got out that these 3-pound monkeys were on the loose in Danville Friday night, the Allen family sprang into action.
And we just decided to come and try, see if we could find one.
These Montoursville residents are animal lovers and drove half an hour to search the woods along Route 54 just off Interstate I-80. That's the spot where state police and game wardens searched for the primates.
I saw it on Facebook, and actually it started as kind of a family fun joke about just making an experience and going to try to save a monkey. So I actually brought a kennel, flashlights, night vision goggles.
The bitter cold did not deter their efforts to lend a hand.
And we were worried because my one friend is a state police officer, and she's like, you know, they can't be out there that long. So we were like, oh no.
The Allen family wasn't able to find any of the monkeys, but they might consider adopting one in the future.
Me and my dad saw on an app that we have that like people have pet monkeys, so we really wanted to get one.